I am just so sick of people moving here to Kansas City. It's driving up the home prices and it's making traffic so much worse. At least that's what people are saying in the comment section of a lot of our videos and other places online. When people call the channel, one of the first questions they ask is, am I going to be welcome here in Kansas City? And this is what this video is all about, to hopefully answer that question. If you stick around until the very end, I'm going to hit the streets, go out to City Market and talk to people to see whether or not you're going to be welcome here in Kansas City. Now first, let me tell you our story. We moved here to Kansas City almost 5 years ago from Los Angeles, California. A lot of the questions and anxieties and concerns in moving here to Kansas City revolved around this very question. Are people going to welcome us? Kansas City is a lot different than Los Angeles, and we don't have any friends here in Kansas City. We're going to be starting from ground zero. So let me share with you a few stories of when we first moved here to Kansas City and how we were welcomed. The first story takes place a couple days after we had moved into our brand new house in Gladstone, Missouri. We no longer live there. We still have a great love for Gladstone because it was the first place that we bought a home. It was the first place that we moved to. But I remember our next door neighbor. Actually, it wasn't our next door neighbor. It was the gal who was kind of catty corner to us. About 3 days after we had moved in, unloaded the U-Haul, our friends who had drove us to Kansas City, they had left, and she was knocking on the door. I remember it was like mid-January. It was extremely cold. She knocked on the door. She decided she was going to come over. She was going to bring a plate of cookies. So she knocks on the door. She comes in, and she grabs my son Keller. He's about 3 months old at the time, and she picks him up and gives him a big fat kiss on the forehead. Now, for us, we were cool with it. We were just like, whoa, this lady just kind of stormed into our house, gave us some cookies, kissed our son on the forehead. And you know what? I don't blame her. We have pretty cute kids. If our kids were ugly, I would tell you. All of our kids have been really cute, and I don't blame her for wanting to kiss our little Keller when he was just a little young infant. But that kind of illustrates to you the warm reception we got in Gladstone, Missouri. Of course, if you move here, your mileage may vary. You may not move next to a super kind neighbor. You may move next to a super crotchety, really mean person. But helping a ton of people move here, a lot of their experience is the same. Welcome with open arms with their neighborhood. Their neighbors come over, they bring over cookies. If you haven't seen the story where one of my clients, they moved in and they got a plate of cookies, and actually that plate of cookies sent my client to the emergency room because they didn't tell them that there were nuts in it, and they ate some nuts that they were allergic to, had to go to the emergency room. That kind of shows you the welcome that you should expect here in Kansas City. You should expect people coming up to your door, talking to you, saying, hey, welcome, we're glad that you're here. That has been more or less the norm as I've helped people moved in and checking on them after a month in living in their new house. A lot of them say the neighbors are super nice, they are super welcoming, and they're glad that we are here. Another story about when we first moved here to Kansas City has to do with our church. We had kind of already decided, hey, this is the church that we're going to attend when we move here. So it was called Emmaus Church. We still have a ton of friends that go there. Since then, we have joined a different church, but we decided that we were going to go to that particular church, and so we arrived there. The very first couple that we met was a family that had relocated here from Columbia, Missouri. They were from a different town in Missouri, and they had only been here for about a month, and they said that night, they were like, hey, you're new here, we're new here, come over to our house, we're gonna put on some meat on the grill, and we're gonna barbecue, and we're just gonna have you over. And we're in touch to this very day. So the very first people who kind of invited us over for dinner, we didn't know anybody. So we said, hey, these people are inviting us. Let's go over. We still know them to this very day. They eventually joined a different church as well. So we're not as close as we once were, but we see them occasionally. We saw them at Costco, like 2 weeks ago when we were shopping. So again, that's kind of the reception that you should expect here in Kansas City. A lot of people are really welcoming. This is the Midwest after all. There is a term called Midwest nice, and basically that kind of describes the demeanor of people welcoming people who are from a different area or a different location. The last story has to do with a time that we took our family to the park. We moved here in January of 2020. I told you before it was super, super bitter cold when we first moved here. And when the weather finally broke around March or April, it got pretty nice. So we decided we're going to take the family out to Penguin Park. The first family that we met on Penguin Park, when we were kind of swinging next to each other, when we were kind of using the swings next to each other, we only had Keller at the time. And so we were using the swings next to this other family, and they started talking to us saying, hey, where are you from? And they wanted to connect. They wanted to be friends. They had young kids kind of around Keller's age, a little bit older. But that's kind of the expectation of what I would expect if you're moving here to Kansas City, that a lot of people are going to be very kind, are going to be very nice. However, I'm going to share with you some tips to make new friends here in Kansas City and make the most of your move here to Kansas City. The first thing is, if you really, really want to make friends, if you're moving here, let's just say like us from Los Angeles, we didn't know a single soul. What I would do is join Facebook groups, I would join Reddit groups, I would join any kind of social media that has to do with Kansas City, because a lot of people there will post meetups, will post hangouts. I'm part of a group called KC Golf. I like to golf, and I've made, probably 5 to 10 new friends just by golfing with them like once a month. So that's going to kind of revolve around your hobbies and the things that you like to do. If you don't like to golf, there's a lot of other things to do. I even came across this group, or I even came across a post in a Kansas City group that was like a local like knitting or crocheting club that got together, like 3 or 4 gals got together to knit or crochet. I saw a post like that. So get on Facebook. There's a group called KC Secrets. It's not a scandalous group, even though the name kind of sounds like, but it's a group of people who just basically post like, hey, where are the best places to eat in Kansas City? Where are the best places to go in Kansas City? If I like to kayak, where am I going to go? Who can I meet up with? If I like to golf, where am I going to go? Who am I going to meet up with? All of those things are available to you if you are a Reddit user. I recently just got on Reddit, and it has been super helpful to get a perspective on Kansas City. And there's a whole Kansas City subreddit, and you can do research there about people's experiences in the city, about where to go if you enjoy craft beer, where to go if you want to do, frisbee golf, where to go if you want to do. All of these things are just available to your fingertips. So go and take advantage of that. Utilize these groups that are online. Another thing is, if you're religious like us, we're Christians. When we first moved here, we moved here for me to do my PhD in a seminary. I would definitely get plugged into a local church. If you get plugged into a local church, you can easily make friends there. Every single church that we've either visited or attended or been a member of, people have been super welcoming. We've gotten multiple invites to dinners, multiple invites to lunches after the service. So get plugged into your local church, get plugged into your local group. If you don't have a local church, we would love to see you. We go to a church called Trinity Church, and that's right in Midtown. So if you don't have a local church and you want to meet us, we've actually had people find this channel and come and visit Trinity before. So if you're looking for a local church, we would love to have you. We love new people and extending hospitality to new people. So if you want a dinner invite or you want just to grab lunch after church, then Trinity is a great place. Another thing is, when you're out and about, I told you that story of us at Penguin Park meeting strangers, just being open to talking to strangers. I can't tell you how many people, one of my clients actually, crazy story. We were just golfing, and it was one of the rare occasions that I went out to golf just by myself. I wasn't with anybody else. And with golf, if you don't know anything about golf, they kind of try to pair you up with different people and to kind of make it more efficient for people to get through the golf course. So it's not just like one person waiting on one person to play a hole. It's like, a group of 2 people or 3 people playing the hole together. Okay. So I got paired up with a guy who, to this day, I talk to probably every 2 weeks, every month we golf together, and I helped him buy a house. And this kind of friendship just blossomed by being willing to be paired up with a stranger. Just say, hey, do you want to get paired up with this guy? Sure, let's go play golf. We, played golf really well together. We hung out together. We had a lot of the same interests. And right now, I would consider this person a good friend of mine just by meeting a stranger. Going out to parks, especially if you are a young family like we are. We have 4, 2, and a 0-year-old. Going out to parks, we definitely meet people all the time. When we go out to Luce Park, we meet people there. When we go out to the Kaufman Conservation Center, we meet people there. I mean, the world is kind of your oyster if you're a friendly person in meeting strangers. Now, I know that in our digital world, it's going to be easier to meet people online than out in public, but like I said before, you can join a whole bunch of groups specific to your interest in Kansas City. But if you're open to just meeting strangers, Kansas City is a great place to do that, especially when the weather kind of breaks and is really nice. Then you can definitely go out, meet a whole bunch of people who, just an eclectic group of people from all sorts of backgrounds, and most of them will be friendly. Now, going back to another way that you can meet friends online, instead of, revolving around your interests, go on these local groups. I see on this Facebook group all the time, Kansas City Secrets, at least once a week, somebody will post, hey, I'm new here. I just want some friends. Anybody want to hang out? Anybody want to do something? Anybody want to have dinner? And I'll see people just respond to that post. Now, you will have to decide whether or not you want to put yourself out there and say, hey, I want some friends. If you're comfortable with that and you're comfortable kind of putting yourself out there and saying, hey, I'm new here, I would like to meet people with these interests, or I'm new here and I just don't have any friends, would anybody be my friend? I've seen a ton of people answer those posts, and I've never followed up with any of those people to see if they actually meet up, but I would guess that with the amount of people that reply to that, that you are definitely going to at least be able to meet one person who is going to want to meet up with you and hang out with you. Also, if you're going to put yourself out there, don't underestimate the power of a common background. When we first moved here, we were just like, hey, we're Californians, we don't fit in here. But we were so wrong, because there are so many Californian transplants out here. There are so many people who have relocated here from California. In fact, let me tell you this story. When we first moved here, we thought we were kind of homesick, and we met this couple that knew to the exact street where we lived and where we moved from in California. We met them in church, and when we were talking to them, they were like, oh yeah, you moved from this city. The city that we moved from was actually called El Monte. You moved from El Monte? Okay, like where in El Monte were you? Were you off of Peck, or were you off of, Live Oak? And we were just like, man, mind blown, because we were meeting this couple, thousands of miles away from where we had just moved from, and they knew to the exact streets where we lived in. They knew to the exact streets, the area where we lived in California. So don't underestimate that. If you're from New Hampshire, or you're from Texas, or you're from Florida, or you're from wherever, Utah, then go on these groups, post about that, and I bet you'll find somebody with a common background. I can't tell you how many people I've connected. These last 3 people that I helped relocate here were all from Georgia. And so we got them all connected, and they talk about Georgia all the time, right? And so if you're willing to put yourself out there and just say, hey, I'm from here, I have these common experiences, that can help you integrate into a group of friends here in Kansas City with a common background. And also, it can help you with your homesickness, especially when you first move here. You do get homesick. We moved here from sunny Southern California, where it was 70 degrees all the time. We were 30 minutes away from a beach, 30 minutes away from the mountains. There's nothing like that here in Kansas City. We were very homesick. And meeting people who kind of knew a little bit of where we came from really made Kansas City start to feel like home for us. So lean into your common backgrounds. You will definitely meet people that know exactly where you come from here in Kansas City. Now, unless you come from some really weird place in like Uzbekistan. In fact, actually I take that back. You still might find people from Uzbekistan here in Kansas City. You're not going to find as many as, Californian transplants, but you still will be able to find people who have relocated here from all over the world to KC. Now, going on from these tips, these are common mistakes that you can make in Kansas City that will kind of throttle your ability to make friends or to feel welcome. Okay, so the first thing is if you are overly introverted, and this is not just a Kansas City thing, this is just a you move anywhere thing. If you move somewhere, it doesn't matter if it's the friendliest place in the world, and you never come out of your basement or you never come out of your bedroom, guess what? You're not going to make any friends. That's just going to be the truth. If you're relocating here because of a job, if you're relocating here because of family, if you're relocating here because of any other, reason, then you're going to need to get plugged into the various events that are around Kansas City, the various things to do around KC. And if you just hole up in your house, you will not make any friends. I don't know if that's a controversial statement. I'm not meaning to be mean against introverts, but just anywhere you move to, you're going to have to make an effort to make friends. Kansas City is no different. Here's another thing that can be kind of a non-starter for a lot of people here in Kansas City. There's a tremendous amount of Kansas City pride. People from Kansas City and people who have relocated to Kansas City really, really love it here. The people who don't, they leave, right? I'm kind of in the strange career path where I want to deliver really good, clear, honest content about Kansas City, and there are definitely some negatives about living here. Okay, I talk a lot on my channel about the crime. I talk a lot about the, some undesirable things about living in Kansas City, because what I want is, before you move here, I want you to know the whole truth. I think that Kansas City is one of the best places in America to live. In fact, I made a whole video about why Kansas City is such an awesome place to live. But I'm also not going to sugarcoat it. Even if you move to the best city in America, there's going to be some negatives. But what I do find is that making these videos about these negative areas, some people come out of the woodwork on the comment section and just really kind of go at me because they say, hey, why do you hate Kansas City? Why do you, why are you tearing down our city? And really, I'm not trying to do any of that. I have plenty of videos on this channel about why Kansas City is an awesome place to live. However, even saying the slightest negative about Kansas City, you get a lot of people starting to attack you. So if you move to Kansas City and you don't like Kansas City, I would just kind of, keep it under wraps, I guess, until you learn to like Kansas City. A lot of the times I comment on these videos that Kansas City is one of the places where people don't just wear the sports merch, right? They don't just wear the Chiefs uniforms or the Royals jerseys and that kind of stuff to rep their city. They just wear like Kansas City merchandise. And I have Kansas City merchandise like this shirt, like other shirts, like Kansas City hats. And I don't cheer for any of these sports teams that are here because I'm from Los Angeles and I still, cheer for the Dodgers, still cheer for the Chargers. So I would say that Kansas City has a tremendous amount of city pride. Try not to insult the city, not to say that you can't say anything bad about the city because I have plenty of videos about the negatives and the pros and cons about living here, about why you may want to rethink moving to Kansas City if you can't handle these things. But go look at the comment sections on those videos. People get mad. So if you want people to kind of take to you, then don't insult Kansas City. If I wasn't a realtor trying to help people relocate here to Kansas City and telling you the real truth about KC, I probably wouldn't say anything bad about Kansas City. Yeah, there's some negative things. There are negative things just like anywhere else, but I'd probably just kind of let it go because, I don't think people like it when you insult KC. Another mistake that you can make is not moving to the right place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get into some general guidelines of where you should live if you are, a certain age, okay? Now, before I get into this, I really definitely want to abide by fair housing rules and laws. And one of the things that you can't do in terms of directing people where to move, you can't discriminate with age. So I'm not saying that if you are this age, you need to move to this location. What I'm saying is that these are the broad trends that I see in terms of age demographic of where people kind of find themselves comfortable in Kansas City. So these are just speaking in very broad terms, okay? This is not saying like if you're a young single person that you can't live in an area that I don't suggest. This is just saying that for what you would probably want to do in the life that you want to live as a young single person, these are the areas that you're going to want to frequent, okay? So in a sense, this isn't even about living at all. This is more just kind of where these people congregate and the things that these people like to do, okay? So if you are moving to Kansas City as a young person, maybe you're single, maybe you're a young professional just starting your career, the hippest, hottest parts of Kansas City to hang out in are going to be kind of around downtown, midtown, KC Power and Light, Country Club Plaza, those types of areas. If you live or kind of frequent those areas, I would say you're going to have the highest concentration of young single people in Kansas City. Downtown, midtown is going to kind of where I suggest. Mostly everything north of the river, there's not a ton of stuff for you to do out there if you kind of like the bar scene, the club scene, the, go out and do stuff scene. That's not going to be north of the river. That's going to be more kind of downtown, midtown. So the closer that you can get to those areas, the higher concentration of young people in your particular demographic and your particular life stage that you're going to run into. Now, how old is a young single? I don't know. That's up to you to decide. If you decide that you're 60 and a young single, that's where the people that you're going to want to be with congregate, okay? I will say this. If you're a young single, dating is notoriously bad in Kansas City. I don't know why. I've been trying to research on the Kansas City subreddit to figure this out. This is a testimonial about Kansas City that I found on that area. This person, I don't know if it's a guy or gal, said, I've dated in 5 different cities in my adult life, and Kansas City is my worst dating experience by far. I quit dating a year ago and don't plan on ever getting back on the apps again. For now, I'm just trying to find my regular spots and see what happens. So it sounds like this person hasn't completely given up on finding somebody in Kansas City. They just given up on the apps. Having never, used a dating app in Kansas City when I first came here, I was happily married with my son. So I've never, dip my toe into any of that. I can't tell on a first-hand experience, but I can see a lot of people's testimonials that it's a notoriously bad dating area. Now, that's not to say that I've never seen anybody fall in love and get married in Kansas City. The past year, I've had, two of my really close friends couple up. So four of my really close friends couple up. So two couples that have gotten together. One got married. Another one is trending towards marriage. So, look, I can't tell you that it's impossible to find love in Kansas City. I can just tell you what I find on the testimonials, okay? Now, if you, going from the young professionals, if you are a young family, and what I'm describing young family is that your kids are anywhere from like 0 to like 10 years old, okay? Then you're going to want, a lot of these young families, they congregate out in the suburbs. I'm talking like north of the river, okay? I recently had this comment. I ran into a person who said, look, I never go north of the river. And I'm like, well, that's because you're a young professional. There's really nothing else for you to do north of the river, because a lot of those things up there are going to be like parks, areas where families can hang out. So north of the river, if you're a young family, that's a great area. You should meet a lot of other young families there, whether you're buying or renting or whatever. I would say that if you're looking for like a rule of thumb, target a kind of mid-priced suburb for the best experience of meeting people kind of in your same age range or demographic. And I would say mid-price is around like $250,000 to $350,000. Okay, if you're gonna spend that kind of money, then you're gonna get into a suburb with a lot of kind of people in your life stage. So that's gonna be one thing that you're gonna want to think about if you want to move your young family, with your kids 0 to 10 to Kansas City, whether you buy, whether you rent. A lot of people are gonna congregate in the Northland. A lot of people in Lee Summit. Some people in Johnson County, okay? Now, speaking of Johnson County, maybe Lee Summit, if you have an older family, let's just say your kids are like 10 to college, okay? So more established, maybe more established in your careers, maybe you have climbed the corporate ladder and gotten into management. A lot of these families, where I see them, is Johnson County. So Johnson County is the highest average price point subdivision, or county, I should say, in the Kansas City metro. It's going to contain areas like Leawood, Olathe, Overland Park, Shawnee, Mission, those types of areas where you're going to have really good school districts. You're going to have really desirable places to kind of hang out for younger families, a little bit older. a little bit older families. Those places are going to be basically very, very suburban. I want to the Missouri side, then yes, the Northland is going to be popular for these families too, these older families. But I would say around like 450 to 550,000, you see a lot of these families moving into houses in that price point. So you'll find houses like that in Lee Summit. You will find houses like that in Liberty, other parts of North Kansas City. That's not to say I didn't mention anything like downtown, midtown. There are like a lot of trendy spots where young professionals live in Kansas City, in downtown and midtown. If you do that though, a lot of people do budget to send their kids to private school if you live south of the river in Kansas City, Missouri proper, because the school districts there are just not that great. So you would have to, find a decent price point home in that area, and budget for, private education if you don't want to deal with the KC public school district. So that's going to be one thing that you want to think about when you're moving here too. Now, if you're talking about empty nesters or people who are actually retiring here to Kansas City, a lot of people who are retiring here to Kansas City, they're moving to places like Kearney, Smithville, Leavenworth, other parts of Lee Summit, kind of like the fringe parts of Lee Summit, because they want a kind of slower pace of life. A lot of these new builds in these areas are kind of built in a ranch style in order to accommodate people who have don't want to go upstairs anymore, or don't want to access a primary bedroom on the second level. A lot of these areas are accommodating you if you're in this kind of life stage. I have a lot of people too who just relocate here to be close to their young family. So when we moved here to Los Angeles, we left my mom behind. She's still in Los Angeles at the time of this video recording. But I know more and more, as we have more and more kids, we just had our last kid a month ago. As we have more and more kids, I know the pull for her to move here is stronger and stronger. And I help people do this, relocate here all the time to be nearer to their kids, because their kids see, hey, Kansas City is super affordable. I'm going to go buy a house that I could never afford in New York, and I'm going to, start my life here in Kansas City. And their parents are kind of left in New York, and they're saying, well, we have $1 million house that is not necessarily super nice. It's just because it's in New York City, it's $1 million. We're going to sell that, and we're going to buy something for $450,000, $500,000 in Kansas City that's really brand new, really nice to be near our kids. That happens all the time, all over the place. But at least from what I'm seeing and what I've, helped clients move, I see a lot of people doing that in Kearney, Liberty, the Northland area that way. I do see a handful of people moving to Lee Summit. I don't necessarily see as many in Johnson County, although maybe that's just, not the clientele that I serve. I don't know. I'm sure it's happening all over the metro. Now, if you're looking to move to Kansas City, give us a call, 816-4-MOVE-KC, 816-4-MOVE-KC. Call, text us, email us. We will get back to you within the day. We would love to help you relocate here to Kansas City. In fact, we do it all the time. 816-4-MOVE-KC. So with that being said, let's go hit the streets. Let's go out to City Market, and let's talk to some people about whether or not you're going to be welcome here in Kansas City. So we're here in River Market, Kansas City, and right behind me is City Market. During this weekend, it's a pretty hustling and bustling place. So we're going to go in there, and we're just going to pick some random strangers and kind of ask them where they live, where they're from, if they relocated to Kansas City and why, and also to see if you're welcome in Kansas City and their opinion on that. So let's go. Yeah, so I'm here with, what's your name?
Ted.
Ted. Hey Ted, so you live in Olathe, right?
Olathe.
How long have you lived there?
1977.
Okay, and the question that we're trying to answer today is, a lot of people are moving to Kansas City, right? It's been growing. What do you think of the growth, and do you think people are welcome here?
Well, I love Kansas City. It's people are friendly here. It's like a small town atmosphere. I've been all over the United States. I love Kansas City.
Yeah, what would you say is the best thing about people? What would you say the best thing about Kansas City is?
The people, the willing to help other people.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like not a big city, yet it has a lot of big city stuff, but small town friendliness.
So you say people are welcome here?
Oh, heck yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Love it.
Have a good one. Yeah, I'm here with, what was your name?
Abby.
Abby, and what's your name?
Ryan.
Ryan. Okay, so Ryan's Wichita transplant, right?
Yep.
How long have you lived here, Ryan?
Lived here about 3 years now, just a little over.
Okay.
Yep.
And Abby, how about you?
My whole life.
Your whole life. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you've noticed that Kansas City is growing pretty fast, right? What are your thoughts about, are people welcome here? Are people welcome to move here? Are they going to find it friendly here? What are your thoughts?
You find it friendly? Oh, absolutely. Look, I found a friend right here right away.
Okay.
No, Kansas City is very friendly.
Okay.
It's a very good pace of life.
Yep.
I think in the last few years, I think people from bigger metro areas that maybe never thought about Kansas City are starting to consider the Midwest, because they can still get the city life and lower cost of living, and it's a little bit easier pace of life here, but it's still growing, evolving, always new things to do.
So you would encourage, if somebody's on the fence about moving here, you would encourage it?
Yeah, I would think so. I think you can get the city life, but 20 minutes north or any direction really, and you kind of have a slower pace of life.
Awesome.
So yeah, you get a little bit of everything.
Yeah, thanks for being on the channel.
Yeah,
appreciate
of course.
it.
Thanks,
Yeah,
brother.
have a good one. What was your name?
Joseph.
Joseph. Where do you live, Joseph?
Midtown, Prospect, 52nd Street.
Okay, yeah, we're
About
like in
10
Midtown
minutes.
too.
About 10 minutes from the plaza.
Yeah, we're in the same area.
Okay.
So how long have you lived there?
I lived there for 6 years, but I've been in Kansas City for 40 years.
40 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a lot of people moving to Kansas City, as I'm sure you've noticed.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
A lot of people
yeah.
moving.
Great place.
Yeah, and so the question that we're trying to answer is, if people move here, are they going to be welcome? Is this a welcoming place? Like, what do you think about the growth?
So they used to say this is the most livable place left.
Yeah?
Yeah, you come to Kansas City, everybody's friendly, it's very diverse.
Yeah.
There's so much to do here, and they opened up the new places. City Center Square, the plaza, of course, Westport area.
Yeah.
And it's just open to entrepreneurs. If you have a new business you want to start, there's always resources for that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Joseph.
Soccer fields and baseball fields.
Yeah, they're building that new soccer stadium.
Yes, right down the river.
Right here.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Thanks, Joseph. I
You're
appreciate
very
you.
welcome.
Have a good one.
You too.
So I'm here with, what's your name?
Katie,
Katie. Hi, Katie. You're from
Columbia, Missouri.
Columbia, and you've been here for how long?
About 3 years now.
So what brought you out here?
I moved for a job, ended
Okay.
up losing my job, and then stayed and found a job at a hotel.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm glad it worked out for you.
Yeah.
So the question that we're trying to answer is, a lot of people have been relocating to Kansas City like yourself. What are your thoughts on just the general growth of the city? Are people welcome here? Did you find people welcoming here? What was that all like?
Yeah, I definitely felt welcome when I moved here. It was a lot bigger than where I came from, so it was hard to navigate originally, but most people were very welcoming, and with the development around KC, there's a lot of opportunities, so I found a job pretty fast, which was nice, and I found a lot of fun stuff to do, which I really enjoy.
So you found so as working in the hospitality industry, that's a pretty open space for job?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, a lot of like hotels and restaurants, they're always going to be hiring, so you just got to find the one that fits the best.
Okay.
But it took me about 2 months, but then I found one. I've been there for 2 years, so.
Awesome, Katie. Yeah, well, thank you for taking time today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Appreciate it. Have a good day.
You too.
I'm here with, what are your names?
I'm Crystal.
Crystal?
Elaine.
Elaine. Okay, Crystal and Elaine, are you both from here?
That's a complicated question, but sort of. Yeah.
Sort of.
I've been
Okay.
here a while.
I'm from Independence, Missouri, which is
Okay.
about 30 minutes east of here.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And then from
But
you,
I live here now.
you live in Kansas City.
Yes, I
Kansas City
do.
proper. Okay. How about you?
I've been here since 2009.
Okay. And the question that we're trying to answer is, for people who are kind of maybe worried about how they're going to be welcome here in Kansas City, what are your thoughts about the growth and just people moving in here?
I mean, I think most of us are really excited that Kansas City's finally on the map.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. And both of us are artists. I'm a
Uh-huh.
musician. Crystal's a visual artist.
Okay.
Super welcoming community for musicians and for artists, writers. I'm also a writer, and
Okay.
it's there's so many things to do all the time.
Yeah.
Everyone's super friendly. I was just here at the AWP, which was in Kansas City last week,
Okay.
and everyone from out of town said they just were amazed at how friendly the people in Kansas City are.
Awesome.
Felt like it was really welcoming.
Cool. Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm sure that will be assuring to people who are watching this. So, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, have a good day. Okay, so I'm here with, what's your name?
My name's Brenna.
Brenna. Nice to meet you, Brenna. And you said you're from Smithville.
Yes.
And how long have you lived there?
I was born and raised there. I was one of the students that were at K through 8.
Okay.
Or
Awesome.
K through 12th grade.
So you've had a lot of experience in Smithville. And so one of the questions that we're trying to answer here is for people who are relocating here and kind of worried, like, am I going to be welcome here? Are people friendly here? What would you say?
Kansas City is definitely one of the good places for that, for the fact that it's one big hometown, especially when it comes to sports and everything.
Yeah.
It is something that gets taken a little seriously, but everyone always has fun with it in the end.
Okay. What would you say to somebody who's relocating here? What might be one of the most important things for them to consider?
Have an open mind about anything and everything. This is an older town, so you never know what to expect, but it's always fun finding out something new.
Cool. Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no
Appreciate it.
problem.
Have a good day.
You too.